Have even more to show on Quake Champions this August at QuakeCon. I mean, it's right there in the name. How would we not have our new Quake game at QuakeCon?
Hey guys, Chris here from Cohesive Friendship Unit. I'm with Jake.
Hey guys.
Jeremy.
Hello.
And Brian.
What's up?
We're going to be talking about Bethesda Game Studios today. We're going to be talking about Starfield, much rumored sci-fi RPG coming out of the company. But first, likes are super appreciated, subs are even more appreciated, comments are also greatly appreciated. Check your message boxes for that copy of Far Cry 5. Until we post a celebration video, assume that it is still up for grabs. Every 48 hours, we're picking a new winner until somebody claims it. All right, Bethesda. There was a post on the gaming forum Reset Era about Starfield and that the game would be, quote, coming this fall, and that fans should wait for E3 for a potential reveal, perhaps a little earlier. The only thing we know about Starfield is through trademark filings from both Bethesda and rumors, and that's about it. But let's talk about the possibility, and let's just take a step back and remember that the last Todd Howard directed Bethesda game was Fallout 4.
Far Cry 7.
Far Cry 7, Attack of the Clones, was Fallout 4, which came out in 2015. So it has been a little bit of time, and they have said several times before that Elder Scrolls 6 is either not in development, in minimal development, or in some kind of it's not coming soon. So
for some fucking reason.
So here we are with Starfield. There was actually a Reddit post that was posted recently. I'm just going to run down some of what he said just to get our minds going, and then we can have at it. I know Jeremy has some thoughts on this. So real quick, this was the Reddit post. It'll be in the video for you guys to see as well. But apparently it's going to be science fiction influenced. It is in fact called Starfield. It's going to be like a space fantasy or opera setting instead of harder science fiction. You can make your own character, and it looks a lot closer to Fallout 4. And the game is apparently using procedural generation technology, and there are 4 planets that you can travel between in a system, and 3 of them have procedural generated terrain and are fully sized. There is a galaxy map. The content on the planet is procedurally generated, as well as aliens, animals, locations, all of that's procedurally generated. The character is silent. You choose what planet you want to start on, or you can pick a random planet. There's a lot of ships, combat similar to Fallout. There are infinite weapons. The settlement system from Fallout's expanded. There are vehicles, and there are factions. So there we go. Jeremy, did you want to start?
Sure.
Because you like the Bethesdes.
I do.
Well,
like
can we clarify
Bethesda
that this was from a Reddit post, and there's been no proof yet that it's legit.
Correct, but there are a lot. The game is.
Well, we know there's a Starfield, but we don't know all the things that you just listed are legit.
Yes. Yeah.
So we don't know if it's going to be an opera.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
What were you saying, Jeremy?
What I was gonna say was that I was gonna piggyback basically on what Jake was saying. My first comment would be that I expect a lot of what you just said is probably not true, because it just sounds too ambitious, and it doesn't. I don't think all of that is doable in one game. So that's my first thought, because basically the description that we have from this person on Reddit who's posted, they claim to have basically inside sources, and evidently it might be the same person that posted on a separate forum, and the mods had independently corroborated that they had reason to believe the person's information was legitimate. So, some of this might be somewhat real, take it with a grain of salt, whatever. But basically they're saying it will be Fallout 4 on there will be one and let me actually clarify. I'm sorry, this is a little disorganized. Let me clarify something that Chris had said. There are 4 main planets. 3 of them are procedurally generated. One of them is a set. It's a city planet, and it's all preset. Then there are a whole ton of totally procedurally generated planets in what's called the unknown, and they procedurally generate everything, the aliens, the fauna, or whatever. So basically, what this leak suggests, it sounds like, is that there's going to be like one fucking planet that's Fallout 4, and then 3 more planets that are like the equivalent of like Oblivion, and then on top of all that, there's also this procedurally generated galaxy that sounds like No Man's Sky. So that's probably not all going to fit in one game, would be my guess.
Well, so assuming that this is true, does this sound like a good way to take on procedural generation, where you have like a decent amount of handmade content, like a game's worth of handmade content, and then you have some pseudo randomly generated stuff, and then you go into the unknown knowing that what you're getting is
bullshit.
Variations on a theme, but
it's
still a variation. It's not the same.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Yeah, that's a good usage of it, I think.
And I don't know that we've come a long way from the days of Oblivion procedural generation. So
I was
just trying to draw a comparison in terms of the scope. Like if everything here is true, this would be a vast video game beyond like anything that exists.
Well, No Man's Sky is technically that.
No Man's Sky is that, but with no set maps and with none of the additional mechanics that they're promising. They're saying it's going to be a first-person shooter on par with Borderlands 2. There are infinite weapons. There's going to be fucking all these factions, which are also procedurally generated. This isn't going to happen. This.
Well, okay, but in terms of like terrain, you're currently kind of playing Oblivion at the moment. Do you?
Yeah, on and off.
That came out 10 years ago. More than 12. That came out 12 years ago. Do you think that that they're up to the task of procedural generation? Bethesda?
No. Bethesda's a mess. All their games are a mess when they come. Of course, they're not up to the task.
No,
they have a lot of money that they can throw.
I just mean like when you're walking around Oblivion, does it feel bad?
No, it doesn't feel bad. It feels okay, but it's also old, and there are other issues with it.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when you walk around Skyrim and Fallout 5, does it feel bad? Because those are newer, and I think.
But those aren't procedurally generated.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the like repeat quests, which do get old after a while, are procedurally generated. And
the Radiant quests are.
I'm pretty sure that they probably use procedural generation to populate the giant maps that are filled with a lot of nothing.
Can I just say
they're mostly just empty in Fallout 4, actually.
Who's the guy? Preston? Is that his name?
Yeah.
With the Minutemen? Okay. Honest to God, thought that Preston's quest line was going to end.
We all did.
Yeah,
I pushed so I probably played for like 6 hours, being like, "Oh, I'm gonna get to the end and I'm gonna like max out this faction or whatever."
6 hours.
And then like he looped me back to the first quest I did, and I was so pissed.
Yep.
I was so mad.
Yeah,
happened to all of us. Radiant quests are fine. They're kind of boring. So, given that I don't think a lot of this is probably going to happen, to get to like the broader idea of, suppose that Bethesda does kind of a space opera-y, title, that could be cool. I actually, if some people have described it as being Fallout in space, if that's the case, then I don't think it's a good idea, because then just make a new Fallout game. I don't really see the need for that. This actually, to me, sounds more like Mass Effect, a game that I haven't played, but it's kind of ringing those bells in terms of how people describe Mass Effect, and that could be cool if they actually broached out into something, a little bit different in terms of real kind of area to cover, I guess, genre.
I like that they're kind of switching it up because I think the Fallout and Elder Scrolls formula was getting a little tired, to be entirely honest.
So you're happy that you're getting a new IP?
Yes.
Possibly.
Yeah, I have more, but I didn't want to cut off Brian there.
Well, I was just going to say that I think it's extremely ambitious if they're going to try to do the opera on procedurally generated planets. I mean,
procedurally generated music is extremely hard to do.
Right? No, and you're not just talking about like music. You're talking about opera. It's not just opera. It's space opera. Like on the home planet or whatever. That's easy. And the guy
that's
not
for babies.
Talking, that's a little bit weird. If you could
if you do an opera with a silent protagonist, that is
right. If you had like an assortment of phrases that you could sing back to the people, or maybe like dramatic, like not really dance moves, but like that type of thing, like dramatic gestures to indicate like what was going on. That could be innovative, but I think that on the procedurally generated stuff, that's going to be very difficult for them.
Will they procedurally generate librettos for you to read of the opera in these foreign alien languages? Will they give you procedural monocles to watch the show with?
No, it would have to be in English because it's a fucking opera. I mean, Italian because it's a fucking opera.
So actually, there are lots of operas in German too, dude.
Yeah, there's German operas. So I'm just gonna say it though. Two things. One, I would like a rhythm-based minigame for this opera. I would like, some kind of rhythm game. And I want I
want to be able to use the Donkey Kong Congo controller.
Jeremy, I think Jeremy, you're not. No, okay, both of you are not looking deep enough, man. Nintendo Labo. I want DLC where I can make my funky space instruments and play this rhythm game and do my space opera the way I want to do it. That's
a good point. Yeah, add a creative aspect.
Let the players play how they want to play.
Can you procedurally generate a Nintendo Labo? Can you procedurally generate $80 cardboard for your game?
With recursion, anything is possible. Okay, so
if I could add,
Jake,
I
Jake
apologize for that outburst.
So Jake, you would prefer a new IP to maybe Elder Scrolls 6. Like let's pretend that Elder Scrolls 6 is now not coming until 2022.
Elder Scrolls 5.
Well, that kind of muddies the waters here.
5, my bad.
So I mean, I did just say that Elder Scrolls Oblivion was my #game struck. So it's tough to say that, but I like the idea that they're doing a new IP. What I really would have liked to see is a refresh on the assets they use. I
was gonna say, yeah.
That's if they had, because I believe have an in-house engine. So I'm not saying migrate to a new engine, but update, refresh some of the assets so it's not so obvious that you just ported all of your Fallout assets to a new IP, and just do something a little fresh.
I was gonna say that I want a new engine in this game.
Agreed.
Whatever.
It would be nice, but that's just, I know that's a lot of work.
Yeah, but that's, whatever. They have time.
They do.
I would be willing to wait. Like, if the next Elder Scrolls, whether that is the next game or whether that comes out in 2020 or whether it comes out in 2030, I need to see a new engine coming out of them. Their animations are atrocious. Things break all the time. I don't know. I think they have the money. They should be investing in their technology. Personally, that is like the number one thing I want to see out of this game is it running on a new, totally revamped engine, not just an upgraded version of Game Bro.
Right. I would agree with that.
As would I.
Especially, I mean, it looks like if you take all the kind of information this anonymous Reddit user posted, it sounds like they're starting to go along the lines of a looter shooter, which, not to go down like the negative path, but that opens up a lot of like games as a service, going the route of like Destiny, Division, which I would be interested in seeing them go down that route. But if you have good-looking games like The Division and Destiny and other looter shooters like Warframe and Borderlands 2 that look fantastic, like why bother playing something that looks like Fallout 5 just in a different format?
Would have to have the quest to back it up, yeah.
Yeah, and so I kind of this is what my original thoughts were just as I first kind of was reading before I got into the details of the gameplay, but just the idea that it would be like Fallout in space and where I would like to see them take this. I think part of the trouble is that you don't want them, or at least I don't want them to make Fallout in space. Like, and I agree with Jake that like you can Fallout I love, but you can only do it so many times. I think there's lots of room for a new IP, but I also want them to like bring the Bethesda-iness to it. Like I don't want them like making this game without making it, Star Wars, without making it Destiny, without making it Mass Effect. How do you make something that's both Bethesda, that's fresh, that doesn't just come off as like, a Mass Effect clone or a Knights of the Old Republic clone or a Destiny clone or something that veers too heavily in that direction. Like, I would like to see them stay a very solid RPG with, first-person shooter elements.
So, like, what if they took more of the gameplay, like the refinements of gameplay? Because I think everybody agrees that Fallout 4 was more shooter than RPG, yeah?
Yeah. They mentioned a cover system, which would be good.
If they had, like, the shooting gameplay mechanics, not mechanics, but the crispness and refinedness of, like, a Fallout 4, but with more RPG-ish stuff of their older titles.
But then you're just kind of making BioShock.
BioShock's not as open world as...
No, but BioShock exists. You know what I mean? That game exists.
They took a dump on their last
There's
one,
no quests or explorable open world. Or, I guess there is, but you know what I mean. It's linear.
I do know what you mean, but I think that would be the wrong move. I think that would be fun. I'd probably buy and play the game and enjoy it a lot, but I think the Bethesda fan base, if they're not going to get Fallout 5 for a few years, it doesn't look like we're going to get it. They're not even talking about it. We're not likely to get Elder Scrolls 6 for quite a few years. And then, like, the next game you come out with that's going to be the next big title for probably the next 4 or 5 years is something that's not really even an RPG. I think that people probably wouldn't be thrilled with that direction. Okay. Because there are other studios already doing that genre and doing it really well. Bethesda is known for doing RPGs. I think that people agree that Fallout 4 is, almost more of a first-person shooter than an RPG, and people dislike that about Fallout 4 a lot.
Yeah.
So if you were like, I have an idea, let's make it even less of an RPG, I think people would be pretty salty.
Okay. Well, okay, so do you guys, everybody here, do we think that we're going to see this, 1, at E3, and 2, is it launching this year?
That's the rumor.
I am going to say, yes, we're going to see it at E3 because last year's E3... Bethesda really pushed Wolfenstein 2 kind of as their magnus opus, and I think based on their open development studios, I think it's their turn to be the big guy up, not id Tech. So I think we are going to see it, and I do think that we are going to see this release this year because there's been a decent bit of time between games. The only reason I think we wouldn't see it is if they are in fact doing a whole new engine, and then I think we'd see it, but we wouldn't get it until late 2019.
Chris, I agree with you 100%.
Sweet. Jake?
I agree on the E3. I'm thinking they'll come. I think the game will come next year, so they have more time to hype it up.
Cool. Brian?
I agree with Jake. I think they'll show something at E3, but they're going to want to do some sort of theatrical tour with this as well. So that's going to take a little while to put together. I imagine it's already in the works, but I wouldn't expect that until early 2019. You want to launch the things at the same time. So
the only reason I was super pro 2018 if they show it off is because that's what they did with Fallout 4. They showed it at E3 and then it came out in October, and it worked. But yeah, I see both sides of the coin, like totally. Like every other company tells you things way too far ahead of time to build the hype. So, okay, Brian, do you want to let everyone know it's what?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chris. And guys, make sure you let us know down in the comments how many CMOS batteries you think Mark Zuckerberg can swallow. And make sure you click that subscribe button and the little ringy dingy up in the top right corner of your screen so you get updated with all the latest goings on here from the Cohesive Friendship Unit. That's all for me, Chris.
Thank you, Brian. All right, guys, you heard the man. Do your duty, and we will see you guys next time.